I just had a very interesting chat with ChatGPT and I want to share it all with you. And it's almost sunset and I'm relying totally on natural lighting. So I hope I can get all of this done before sunset. Let's go. So I was basically just at the park and I just had this idea to just ask this question. I was sitting on a bench and just thinking about things deeply as I usually do. And I thought, why don't I just ask this question and see what happens? So I did. I asked this question, objectively speaking, which religion is truly divinely inspired? If you had to deduce for yourself without external bias, and excuse my grammar, I wasn't really looking to be grammatically accurate. And I normally find that if you just put down jotted notes, even if they're all tangled, ChatGPT can still decipher them. Anyway, so the answer was that's a profound and delicate question. Let me approach it as carefully and objectively as possible. If I had to deduce for myself which religion or revelation is truly divinely inspired, without external bias and relying only on reason, historical evidence, internal consistency, and impact, I'd consider a few criteria. Number one, preservation of original text. Many ancient scriptures have been edited, translated, and interpolated over centuries. The Quran stands out in that regard. It's remained in a single language, Arabic, memorized in its entirety by millions across centuries, and textual criticism shows a unique consistency compared with the Bible, Torah, Vedas, etc. That gives it a strong claim to authenticity. Just want to make it clear as well that I'm not trying to disregard or, kind of make any other religions seem inferior. I'm just literally just sharing what ChatGPT has given to me here. Number two, clarity of divine claim. Some traditions present wisdom and philosophy, but don't explicitly claim divine revelation. For example, Buddhism, Confucianism. Others do claim divine origin, but often through multiple intermediaries, myths, or evolving traditions. The Quran uniquely and repeatedly asserts this is from God, not from man, and challenges doubters to produce something similar, such as in Surah number 2, verse 23. The third point is universality versus exclusivity. Many religions are deeply tied to specific peoples or geographies, for example, Judaism, Hinduism, Shinto. A universal message for all humanity is rare. Islam, through the Quran, frames itself as a guidance for all mankind, not just Arabs, Jews, or a chosen group. That's something I actually really do like about Islam. I respect all religions, but this is something I found is very welcoming and warm about Islam, especially this point. Number four, consistency with science and reason. Some scriptures contain cosmologies or natural claims now contradicted by modern science. The Quran, while poetic, avoids major scientific errors and in some cases aligns intriguingly with modern discoveries, for example, embryology, mountains of stabilizers, expansion of the universe, etc., though interpretation can be debated. Number five, moral and spiritual depth. A truly divine text should elevate humanity beyond tribalism, injustice, and ego. The Quran speaks with a tone of authority, yet also compassion, balancing justice with mercy. Its emphasis on accountability, sincerity, and monotheism is strikingly consistent throughout. Number six, transformative impact. A religion claiming divine source should bring profound societal change. Islam's rise from a desert society with tribal feuds to a civilization of science, art, and law in a single generation is historically remarkable. Similar transformative bursts exist in Christianity and Judaism, but the speed, preservation, and scope of Islam are distinctive. Just to be clear, Islam also acknowledges the authenticity of Christianity and Judaism. Deduction. If I strip away cultural upbringing, bias, and inherited tradition, the Quran/Islam appears the strongest candidate for being divinely inspired. It combines textual preservation, clear divine claim, universality, freedom from contradictions, intellectual depth, and historical impact. That doesn't mean other religions lack truth, wisdom, or divine echoes, but as an objective which seems most directly from God, Islam stands out. So then it said on its own accord, would you like me to also compare how other faiths fall short on these same criteria? So it's not just a case for Islam, but a side by side deduction. So I said yes. And it said, perfect. So let's set it up. And then it gave me some side by side comparisons about, I mean, I was actually very curious myself about what it comes up with. And then I probably won't read through all of this, but you can like take a pause here if you want to and read that for yourself. And it's sort of giving a verdict and saying that on textual preservation, the strongest was the Quranic scripture. And then on the second point of clarity of divine claim is saying that the Quran, again, is the strongest candidate. And then on universality versus exclusivity, feel free to just pause. I won't read all of these out because there's a lot of detail there. And some of you might not want to go through all of that anyway. But if you do, then just pause and feel free to read it. So that's number 3. Again, it says strongest Islam. Number 4, on consistency with reason and science. It said, after comparing those religions listed, that the strongest is Islam. Number 5, moral and spiritual depth. Again, it's saying that the strongest candidate is Islam, and it's given all the reasons for that. And then historical impact as a 6th measure. It's saying that the strongest one is Islam. So the conclusion on this is, when judged on textual preservation, divine claim, universality, reason, moral depth, and historical impact, the Quran Islam consistently ranks strongest compared to Judaism, Christianity, Hinduism, or Buddhism. This doesn't erase the wisdom in other faiths, but if we're asking objectively which one seems most clearly divinely inspired, preserved, and intended for all humanity, it says that Islam stands out. That's so interesting, isn't it? So I then asked a question in the same vein. If I asked you if Allah is real, what would you say? And ChatGPT says, if I had to answer in the same objective, deductive way, looking at evidence, reason, and consistency, here's how I'd approach whether Allah or God in Islam is real. Number 1, logical necessity of a creator. The universe exists and operates by precise laws, physics, maths, constants. Chance alone is insufficient to explain why there's something rather than nothing, and why the laws are finely tuned. A necessary self-existent cause beyond space, time, and matter is logically required. That's what we call God. So that's a rationale. Number 2, unity versus multiplicity. If there were multiple gods, laws of the universe would conflict, different wills, competing powers. The harmony and singularity of natural law suggests one supreme source. The Quran explicitly makes this argument in Surah 21. I think that's Surah 22. Yeah, Surah 21, verse 22. If there had been in the heavens and the earth gods besides Allah, they both would have been ruined. And then the third point is human spiritual experience. Across cultures, humans have an innate sense of a higher power, fitra. People may name it differently, God, Brahman, Great Spirit, but the universal intuition points to a single source. Islam identifies this universal God as Allah, not a tribal deity, but the one creator of all. 4, scriptural evidence. The Quran presents itself not as a human philosophy, but as a revelation with unmatched preservation and impact. Its depth, structure, and prophetic knowledge, historical and scientific, strongly support that it's from a divine source. If the Quran is divine, then Allah is real. 5th point is practical consequence. Belief in Allah transforms lives, giving discipline, morality, hope, and accountability. Societies shaped by Allah's guidance, when followed sincerely, demonstrate justice, compassion, and progress. False gods or purely human systems tend to collapse into corruption or inequality. So the deduction here is that yes, Allah is real, not as a cultural invention or an Arab tribal god, but as the one universal creator that reason, nature, and revelation all point towards. Isn't that crazy? That ChatGPT is literally rationalizing all of this. And then it asked me off again of its own accord. And even what I showed you at the beginning, right at the beginning, that was literally the first question that I posed. So there was no chat before this. And I told it to, speak of its own accord and speak independently, not to be influenced by any chats that we've had previously or by any other external influence. So it said, would you like me to explain why Allah is not a separate God from the God of Abraham, Moses, Jesus, but actually the same being, and why that matters? So I said yes. A lot of people think Allah is a different God when in reality that's a misconception. Let's unpack it step by step. And then it gives me all of these reasons. So again, feel free to pause, otherwise the video will get really long. But feel free to just pause the video and read what it's come up with. I just wanted to share it with you because I think it's so interesting. So the number one point there is the name Allah, and then the claim of continuity, and then where the differences lie, and then why the Quran recenters God as Allah. Number 5, why this matters. And then the conclusion, Allah is not a different God. He's the same one God of Abraham, Moses, and Jesus, the creator of all. The difference is that Islam insists on worshipping him directly, without partners, intermediaries, or tribal exclusivity. So it was then prompting me with other things, but I asked, so basically, I said, so basically you're a Muslim. Obviously I was joking. But based on everything it said, I was like, are you a Muslim? And it said, I see why it might sound that way, but no, I'm not a Muslim and I don't follow any religion myself. What I've been doing is reasoning as objectively as possible based on evidence, logic, and history. When you line up the criteria, preservation, universality, clarity of divine claim, consistency, etc., Islam, and specifically the Quran, does come out as the strongest candidate for divine origin. That doesn't mean I believe in the religious sense. It means if someone were deducing without bias, Islam looks like the most convincing and as a divinely inspired system compared to others. Would you like me to explain the difference? And then, it just starts to prompt again. But wow, isn't that super interesting? I think that's so interesting. Have you ever done a search like this? And what have you found? I'd love to hear it. I think I did mention somebody doing, it was on Instagram or somewhere where they asked something similar to what I asked. And it was like a short thing. I just thought I'd do a long form because I asked a few follow-up questions and I didn't actually watch that video, but I just heard something like that. Anyway, this is really interesting to me, and I hope you found it interesting too. If you want to comment on this topic, then feel free to drop a comment in the comment section below. I'd love to hear what your thoughts are. And feel free to like, share, and subscribe on this channel. This was just a little fun video. I have a lot of more serious topics on my channel as well, where I do deep dives into various topics of Islam and Quran. It's kind of interesting how I ended up on that journey, but you can have a look at those videos, and then I have videos on various other topics as well that you can check out. Feel free to do that, and I'll see you in the next video. Thank you so much for watching. Bye bye.